As India's biggest consumer internet brands post record growth, a very different story is unfolding on the ground, one that raises uncomfortable questions about labor, culture, and trust. This week, we examine why platforms can't outrun the human story behind the apps. Record orders, resilient operations, and soaring valuations tell one story. The work and worker discontent tell another. We explore what this widening gap means for brand trust, leadership accountability, and the future of India's platform economy. Hello and welcome to the show, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you all with me here today. And I'm gonna sort of, get straight into it. And we all saw the narrative build up around New Year's Eve. You had your platforms talking about record orders, record numbers, on days when there were active worker strikes. Partha, I'll come to you with this first. Is that, in your mind, just operational confidence, or was it essentially a messaging mistake, which of course put the spotlight on this narrative gap?
I think for the first time, this whole startup world is dealing with what in our time we used to call blue-collar worker. Nowadays, it's fashionably called gig workers, right? So it's a little different from dealing with coders. See, the startup world was mostly dealing with coders. So, and if you have to explain it, I'm sorry, you have to go back to college level marks, And he said very clearly that blue-collar workers raised their voice because of something called material exposure, because they're in the sunshine, they're in the rain, they're actually facing the traffic, they're facing the problem. So they can raise their voice much faster than white-collar workers, because white-collar workers live under what is called a, false impression, which we call today LinkedIn. So because they have a way to exit. They will quietly go and update their LinkedIn CV and look for the next job or something. But these guys can't exit. So they don't have a choice but to raise their voice. Now, this is a very different ecosystem that the startup world is facing increasingly, more and more. So there are very different ways to manage this. If the frontline gig workers are not considered to be part of the brand narrative, then this will keep on happening. This is not a one-off thing. It has to be integrated as a part of brand narrative, and then only you will figure out how to manage it, whether there would be a human story to the whole purpose. Otherwise, what will happen is they will keep raising their voice, and the founders will remain silent. And then at some point in time, they will deny it's a sporadic event. Nobody is going to believe that, because today, a gig worker standing on the road giving a narrative is picked up by the internet consumer much faster than an interview coming on whatever, Amer Jaleel or something, right? So, unfortunately, that's the truth.
So wrong influencer, but okay. Or maybe it was deliberate, I don't know.
Sorry.
Maybe it was deliberate.
Sorry. So I thought, this change in approach needs to be the truth going forward. It will have to happen, because the kind of businesses which are growing a lot are businesses which use a lot of gig workers. Right. So unless and until we integrate the human story of the gig workers, it is not possible for the brands to separate itself from the event saying, yeah, these are stray events. This has happened only once in a blue moon. Nothing of that sort. If this will keep on happening. And another part B of the story is also this whole thing called valuation on narrative. Okay, so every time everybody is telling a massive story to build up narrative, to build up valuation. I want to give somebody anything that that person needs in 10 minutes. It's a great story, like somebody just, I saw one video saying, somebody told me my ambition is to reach somebody within 30 minutes if there's an accident. At what cost? What is the infrastructure in India? Who will do it? Whether the gig workers are well equipped to do this or not, this is a question which needs to be asked much before this kind of grandstanding takes place. So I think the stories need to be now more responsible than romantic. So nobody minds a 15-minute safe delivery over a 10 minutes kill yourself delivery, right? So I think the narratives also need to change. And these are the two things which will happen going forward because these are not stray incidents.
You know, the couple of things I want to pick on what Partha said. Number one, you know, I mean, honestly, leadership at these platforms is not particularly silent on these matters, right? Like I was saying, there were all these narrative build-ups about record orders, numbers, etc. They're not silent, number one. And on your other point about, you know, putting a human face to the story, if you see what brands like Zomato have done over the years, even they have brought that. So then, what is the issue really? Then, where is the real disconnect in the narrative? And you know, what are the brands and platforms thinking? Arun, I'll get you in here. Any thoughts on what's happening there? Where is this disconnection really coming from?
See, I think the truth of the matter is that I think this has come into being in a slightly unorganized way, right? It's not like somebody said, okay, nobody thought it would reach this level of scale. And I think now that it has reached this level of scale, I think usually anything that involves human beings at this scale tends to become messy. And that's the truth. Because like Partha said, I think there are different mindsets of people at play here. There is a company, there is a consumer, there is the gig worker. Now, consumers are also wanting all the efficiency, everything. They want speed, they want efficiency, they want all of it. But even that little bit of paying mildly extra for it hurts, pinches the consumer. So the consumer is not wanting to pay. The company has a P&L to run. The gig workers are rightfully in their own right, they want to be paid better than where they are. And I think it goes back to the whole labor thing, right? I think as labor forces grow, I think as they become more one, obviously their voices are heard a lot more, and because they now are a unit that can voice itself. And I think the truth is also, I think some of our expectations and infrastructure don't match what's happening here. So I think that is also a little bit broken. So I think that's what is playing out. And I think somebody will need to say that, listen, how do we organize this in a way that is sustainable? I think that's something that somebody needs to put their head down and do that.
To your point about consumers, you know, of course, even with what happened with Zomato recently, social media was flooded with consumers talking about the rights of gig workers. You know, there was a lot of backlash against the company as well. So on one hand, the impression is that consumers really care about fairness, but on the other hand is convenience, and the behavior tells otherwise, right? So are platforms then really just reflecting what consumers want, or are they in a sense sort of shaping it? It's a strange situation.
I think the truth is that there is a social media existence that everybody has, and there is reality. And that's the truth.
Reality is what? You want it in 10 minutes.
In reality, if you have ordered something and if it doesn't reach you, by the 9th minute, everybody is impatient.
The reality is that you're hungry.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether you're hungry, whether it's an order,
late, the pizza is
whatever, whether it's food, whether it's essentials, whatever it may be, but we've reached that kind of a mindset. And then there is one thing to get on social media and say all the right things about how you care about, about the quality of life of these people. So I think they're all at conflict. I think it's a major mishmash of I think intent versus actions, right? I think in this case, when it reaches this kind of scale, I think intent is far lesser than actions. I think companies need to act and not just show intent, or even consumers.
Amer, your thoughts on that? The whole consumers on one hand, clamoring for fairness, but not at the cost of their convenience, maybe.
I feel that there are three sets of immature voices that are, all, when you said clamor, this is how clamor happens, right? The most immature of consumers will be the loudest on social media or wherever this thing is. The gig workers, very rightfully, if there's something gone wrong in their sort of workspace, they will make their voices known. Some of them will keep quiet. Some of them will want to, raise their voices and say a lot. But now we come to the, the people who are running these, Q-comm brands, e-comm brands. See, these guys have not developed through the corporate infrastructure, right? They have not come through the ranks. They've just had an idea, beautiful idea. They can make money out of it. They can improve people's life. They are coming from there. Doesn't mean they are very, very mature. And I've seen, Arun and I have handled many brands in Lintas, where a lot of these people who are e-comm, giants now, but, they are not so well developed in personality terms or in, maturity terms. So they...
When it comes to their leadership.
Yes. So they all come at each other. So one guy will say something, one voice will come, the other guy will stand up and say that, that's not how it should be. So there's this clash happening because of this. And I feel that kind of thing is just, it's the, like some kind of a ignition happening within this whole atmosphere. So everybody talks, they put in their kerosene or their spark or their something, and it goes up in this. So now imagine if this is going on and there is what Arun was saying, added pressure of like lakhs of people, lakhs of consumers.
The scale of it.
Yes, and lakhs of gig workers, all involved at the same time. It's going to cause some kind of blast. So I feel that's.
Now recently I was on a Vande Bharat train, and so I was just scrolling, and they actually promise you that you can get delivery at 2 stations ahead.
Right. Yes.
You can actually, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I saw this morning, very unfortunate, there was one of the gig workers who was trying to deliver on a train and actually fell off a moving train, and I think the companies also issued a statement this morning. But I'm saying those are the kind of risks, and we're not, I think unfortunately, I think one of the truths of the matter is that I think as a country, if we don't start valuing people and the risks involved a lot more, I think it's not a good
I think
place.
basically what you're saying is what looks very good on an iPhone 17 on a very good interface is actually one poor sod carrying the stuff and running from one compartment to another. And that is the truth. Like I have spoken to many of these gig workers when they deliver, because I checked with them during monsoon and stuff like that, and they almost cry. The moment you talk to them, the next 2 questions will kind of bring out tears. That's the level of state it is.
It's not new, right? It's happened with Uber and Ola drivers in the past. So I think this whole corporates meeting the gig worker economy.
I still think Uber and Ola still has possibly moved up to a point where many people I have spoken to have told me how it has improved.
No, in the past. I meant in the past.
Change their lives. But especially the delivery people, they're nothing better than when we used to call our grocer shop, and that little boy used to come in cycle, and he would be permanently unhappy, and he will check.
And now you have these rickety electric bikes that you see people.
So what looks beautiful on a interface, like fantastic UI UX, but that is the real UI UX. The guy who's ringing your bell.
Ringing the doorbell, absolutely. And I think very often, I think a lot of people just forget, like you said, that there's a person, there's a human being at the other end of that excellently designed app. But Vijay, let me get you in here. It's really interesting because we are essentially seeing what I think is this kind of fast fashion moment.
Yep.
Where there's convenience now, there's all this high growth today, but perhaps a reputational reckoning, in the future, in the works. Given your experience in global markets and the UK in particular, what do you see when you see what's happening in India currently with our consumer internet platforms?
Having traveled, like you said, across both markets back and forth, and I live largely in the UK, what I'm seeing here is the let's call this the initial phase, whatever has happened in, quick commerce so far. The real sort of adrenaline rush that consumers have got out of something getting delivered in 8-9 minutes has driven the whole quick commerce economy in the initial phase. But I step back and look at the bigger picture here, and somewhat like what the others have said here, the companies and the government and all of us have to look at sustainability here. So sustainability I define in 2-3 different ways. Sustainability in terms of whether these businesses, how are they going to sustain in terms of profitability? While they have driven a lot of revenues, how profitable are they? And what does that need, for that to be profitable? So if you look at grocery, where I have, particular experience, the basket sizes of quick commerce have to grow for companies to become profitable. So it doesn't become profitable by someone ordering a pack of crisps and a juice and just a bar of soap or something like that. So as people get used to this quick commerce, companies have to work in such a way that they can develop a loyal client base, which over time invests cash-rich, time-poor consumers living in big cities, whose basket size will grow.
Right.
And that will eventually make the companies more profitable. And in doing so, they will also have the wherewithal to invest in the people on the front line, which is very important. So all of us as business people, having worked in companies, we wouldn't want to build businesses on the back of what might be called exploitation of people, gig workers or people at the front end. So in order for businesses to become sustainable in the long run, profit has to be built, which needs a lot of investment, which needs investment in dark stores and all that. We can talk about all that. So companies need to focus, the joy of getting something delivered very quickly has built the initial phase of this. The next phase should focus on developing a loyal customer base who will repeat buy, what percentage is repeat buying, what's the size of their basket. All those things will eventually result in companies becoming more profitable. They need to, of course, think about colleagues at the front end who are delivering in rain and heat. And the third aspect of sustainability, so one is sustaining profit, second is sustaining your employee relationships. And the third aspect of sustainability is the environment itself. Do we want to live in a country where millions of bikes are driving up and down, causing pollution, air quality index? Every time I come to India, that's something on all TV stations. So do we want to...
It's also referred to as IQ.
So, that again is, investing in green energy, bikes which can drive on, battery powered and so on.
Right.
So how can this whole ecosystem, which is excellent, which is exciting, which is making many people come out of poverty as well, people working at the front end and so on, all that is great, but how can we make this more sustainable and beneficial for all?
Absolutely.
That's the theme. Yeah. When I think of it, that's how I think of this. And in the West, some of these conversations are being had as we speak. So, and the big difference I say is, here the great joy of getting something delivered in 8-9 minutes, that's a little bit less important there, especially when you think of grocery. A burger, yes, people may still want very quickly, but if you think of grocery, they would rather have the right brands, right quality, things stored at the right temperature. It doesn't matter if it comes in half an hour or 60 minutes.
Right.
But that's my story.
That's an interesting distinction, right, Partha? This need for Indians to have everything instantly, is that something that comes naturally to us, or now that we've built up this, this habit of wanting everything instantly? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
No, we're just compensating. Remember, there was a time when we were children. We were growing up where you apply for a telephone line and you used to get it after
8 years.
A year, 2 years. So we are compensating for lost time. That's a different thing. But actually, I have a slightly different point here, because what is happening is, we all like the new economy. The way this economy is coming up, the the way people are, harnessing ideas and making
The
them
heroes
big.
of the new economy.
And we all like that. We all like the way this economy is being built up, and we think this is possibly India's route to becoming a bigger,
Right.
a bigger and more, robust economy. Having said that, the new economy cannot have industrial era ideas of labor management. I once met, I will not take his name, though he'll not mind, but a very big, startup person. We were just having coffee and shooting breeze, and his ESOP was upward of 14%. And I said, I haven't heard this number ever. So he said, listen, if I am like the industrial era guys, that, whatever profit you make, only 0.01% will be distributed to in the name of bonus. Saying, then why am I building new economy? New economy is where I will be growing with hundreds of people and stuff like that. That thought, stuck with me. And I'm saying that today there is a space for new age economy, somebody who's spearheading new age economy, who has a very human story to tell about collective growth, which includes gig workers. So that, I think, is going to be the next phase of stuff where you cannot have the story of new economy where you are actually questioning a lot of stuff of the industrial era, but your labor policy can't be from industrial era, right? Places like US and UK, industrial era was big there.
Yeah.
So therefore, they had to borrow a lot from industrial. For us, what was industrial era? Like it wasn't anything to write home about. So therefore, if this is going to be our escape velocity, if this is going to define who we are in the future, then I think there has to be a slightly more, human approach to the idea of growth. The idea of growth cannot be storytelling. Whoever wants whatever in 5 minutes is not the idea of growth. How I can grow, not just, like X number of people, but millions of people who work with me or work in my ecosystem. How do I make their life richer? These kind of narratives are waiting to happen. I'm sure somebody will do it. I don't know whether it's any of these guys or it could be somebody new, but I'm telling you, in the new era, this will be the storytelling, and it won't be, part of the storytelling is new, part of the storytelling is from the industrial era. That will not work. I think what has happened with that 31st December thing is a little bit of sampling of that.
Okay.
So that is bound to change. That will give in. Whether the existing companies will do it and some new companies do it, that is, the jury is out for that.
Arun, Amer, what's the prescription here then for brands? When we talk about brands like Zomato or Zepto, who do you perhaps think is best placed to capitalize on a new narrative going beyond the 10-minute hook, which is, currently in play? Like, what do you think, who do you think is best placed, and what do you think will happen with this narrative going forward? We've seen, for instance, founders being very vocal, very opinionated. It's not sitting on the fence for anything. You had Dipendra Goyal come out there and really point by point attempt to dismantle arguments against their models. Is that the right way? I don't know. What's the take?
I don't know what's the right way, but I think what's also happening in my view is that there was the initial euphoria of, so many jobs are getting generated. I think there was that euphoria of, there is a new way of working, that, you can actually just get this done and you can you can make a living. I think that discovery phase is over. And I think now people have come to terms with the fact that, okay, this is a real means of living which can be earned and which is here to stay. And I think now that it's moved to that phase, I think even companies need to move from the phase of saying, okay, yes, we are providing employment, yes, but you're not doing anybody a favor, right, by providing employment. Because I think finally the people that you are employing are people who are actually contributing to the profits of your company. And how do you make sure that it's a bit like if I work in a company for 5 years, the company can't keep telling me saying, I've given you employment.
Yes.
At some point in time, I'm going to ask for, okay, what does it mean? Does loyalty mean anything? Am I getting something out of this? So I think these are the kind of conversations that it needs to shift to. Saying what happens to people who are doing this day in and day out. And even consumers need to be, like I said, I keep saying this, I think it's very important for us as consumers, all of us included, to also think of how do we respond to some of this, right? If we keep fueling the narrative of I am wanting it in 8 minutes and 10 minutes, the companies will keep doing that, because unless we say that, listen, I want it, I want it fast, but I do want it responsibly.
Right.
If the consumer does not ask for it, the company is not going to go ahead and do it. So I think it's a triangle, and everybody needs to act.
Yeah, I want to see that happen though. Consumers saying, "ठीक है," मतलब half an hour later is fine.
That is, I think I like Arun's optimism. Consumer will never raise a voice. At the end of the day, he'll say that I want it cheaper and faster. You know, because I actually am part of a initiative which our batch, IIM Ahmedabad people started, called Safe in India, where we actually track accidents in northern India in auto ancillary. So everybody wants auto cheaper, right? So 5 lakh auto becomes 4 lakh, 2 lakh. Now I think you don't pay money and they pay you money to buy a small car or whatever. So this narrative has come at the cost of all ancillary units are completely junking safety norms. Now it's not happening in large company premises, but it's happening in ancillary. There's a cost. Anytime things come cheap, anytime things come faster,
Somebody's paying for it, yeah.
there is a cost, and more often than not, the cost is a human cost. So if it's the ecosystem which will have to do it. It cannot be the consumer, because consumer more often than not will not be able to connect the dots. Whereas the people who are running the ecosystem, by which I mean the government system, the companies, the people who are providing the money, all this entire ecosystem need to be careful about the human value of any business. And human value of business is going to be the future.
Also, the truth is that the people that you interact with, they are the face of your brand. That's who the consumer is interacting with.
Absolutely.
For them, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Swiggy or somebody had done it back in the day, where somebody refers to the person as Swiggy. Like we all say, right? Swiggy is at the door. And then they said, no, there is a human being behind this, right? So I think one is to say that in advertising, but one is to how do you make sure, because that's what the consumer is being left behind with as a brand. And if that person's going to continuously crib about what's going on, it's not a nice feeling to be left behind with the consumer as well.
Absolutely.
And if it has to be left to unionization, then I think New World economy has failed us. Because if it's finally boiling down to unionization, this is exactly what used to happen in factories and the mills which are shut down, etc., etc. So,
which is against everything that the new age brands, new economy brands have been trying to build with their vision and ambition.
So if the brand doesn't take care of the need of unionizing, then I think the brands have failed us.
Yeah, to put it another way, in dynamic markets like India, if companies don't think about all this and build a more sustainable model looking after people at the front end, change will come drastically. Unlike in more mature markets where it slowly happens and government regulation is looking after the people at the front end, etc. Here it may come quite dynamically, quite drastically, through any of these routes, political routes. So that's something companies have to be aware of.
Absolutely. Let me zoom in a little bit on the aspect of communication and branding, Amer, and maybe share your thoughts a little bit on I'm going back to the example of Zomato, which really sort of pivoted some of its tone and vibe and feel and all of that when it did that campaign with Shah Rukh Khan. Your thoughts on how some of these brands are essentially communicating through advertising? Where do you think it should head next?
They should not communicate on social media. This is not something that they
Let's
can...
face it, that's impossible. You can't say
well,
no
they
to
want,
social
they may
media.
want to do it, but they should not.
You're saying that the leadership shouldn't be that vocal on social media?
Can I say that, when you try to defend something, it looks defensive. And especially when you try to defend something on social media, it looks worse than anything you've ever done. It doesn't look positive at all from anywhere. So nothing, at least on this count, you should do on social media. Do your nice, namby-pamby stuff on social media, make the brand look sweet and good and all. The actual thing needs to be done at the doorstep. That's what I feel. You know, I'm thinking of a postman, right? The postman, the sweet picture of a postman, nicely uniformed, topi, speaking to you gently, you know, sometimes speaking to you in your local language, has a point of view on, you know, a little thing about a festival that is going on, something like that. That person, that is your model. That is your brand model. Come to that brand model, make that person who delivers your brand, and have it on the model of something that is, you know, a little nostalgic, a little, you know, old worldly, something like that, and not this, not that, right? So I feel the brand needs to be built first at the ground level. The ground level is at your door, build it there. Let that person and the person facing that person, which is the consumer, talk about all this. Let that narrative come out in the open, and that will make the brand look positive rather than you going out and trying to say, either defend like, you know, the Goel thing happened or anything else. That's not going to do it.
But then, Amer, I have a question there.
Haan ji.
Typically, in the postman's case, the postmaster general was never the face of the post, right? No, but here the problem is all the founders are the face of the brand, right? So without the founder, there is no brand. I'm yet to see a brand which is, you know, devoid of or divorced from the founder. It's the brand and the founder are more or less the same.
But if you were
Again,
comparing-
it's a new world narrative, no, for the founder to be the face of the
Therefore,
brand.
to manage the contradiction of making the last mile delivery your brand face versus the owner as your brand face, I think it's going to be a very interesting journey. We need to see it, because it also means, you know, giving out a little bit. There was once this narrative about consumer owns your brand, so you can't control it. People were very nervous. So here, what you are saying is that the last mile guy may own your brand, so you may need to release it a little. People need to come to terms with it.
But definitely the founder has to go a little bit in the background.
So
because the
that's
founder, according to me, is not making a great sort of job out of, you know,
But
projecting.
it's a catch-22 now, because the founder also needs to make sure, because many of these companies have gone public. They have to keep their eye on the stock price. You know, their presence is very important for how the stocks perform.
Absolutely.
So it's not an easy. It's not
At the financial level, at the financial end, it's fine.
But it's not separable. That's the problem. The consumer side and the finance and business side is not separable.
I mean, we have seen a lot of, you know, brands at an earlier age where the Tata was never, you
I think
know,
even
we had discussed it in one of the
We did.
things.
take your
public reputation.
Public reputation.
Yes.
Because I gave an analogy saying, listen, once the egg is a boiled egg, you can separate the white and the yellow.
yeah.
Once you make a scrambled egg, it's very difficult to separate the yellow and the white.
But
The
that's
owner-
interesting. There's Big Basket, which is a Tata company. How come, like, they're not discussing that?
Yeah, they're not.
They're also doing 10-minute
Point.
deliveries.
Absolutely good point.
They're also doing
Why is
10-minute
it-
deliveries.
Okay, this is interesting, because then why is it that perhaps Zomato, for instance, however you pronounce it, whatever your
Yeah.
preference is, why is it then they get more of the backlash and attention compared to, say, a Big Basket or even Swiggy for that matter? Right, founders more out there,
They're more behind the scenes.
vocal. Zepto again, very young, raring to go, you know, ready to jump in and defend their brand on LinkedIn or any other social media platform. So then does it also boil down to when it comes, and I'm just talking about the narrative being built out there and the forces that are shaping it, does it then just come down to that at the
To
end
an
of the
extent,
day?
yes. Because, say, somebody who's a slightly vocal consumer would always look for someone he or she can blame. You know,
And so these particular people become the face of the industry
too
essentially.
much. And for instance, great example, Big Basket. You catch hold of a person on street, he or she may not know who are the people behind Big Basket. They'll know the brand, but you catch hold of anybody and ask them who's the owner of, say, Paytm or Zomato or Ola. They may not know the name of the company, they will know the
Yeah.
name of the founder. So it's easy for people who are trying to be, like activist consumer. In reality, they're not activist consumer. They're still looking for the cheapest deal. But in social media, if you want to show activism, it's much easier to find a bigger name and go. And this happens with politicians also, right? So you have something to vent, you find a person and you throw mud. So that is bound to happen. So again, this is the place where one is to decide that how to see. Today, brand construct is not about what you are advertising. That is a very minimal part of the brand. So the whole story has changed so much that how you are building corporate narrative, what kind of interviews you are giving is also building the brand every day.
We were taught, at least at Lintas, we had a lot of brands, a lot of people fronting their brands in various ways, but not exactly coming on the packaging of their, products and all that. That if somebody is talking straight to you, shut up. Don't talk back. And now the world is completely different. I remember once we had done an ad for Havells, and it came on the edit page, like a 8-column story that we were doing something wrong, right? And what we did was we just shut up. We never said anything back because you don't want to build that up. You want to correct yourself. Okay, you've done something maybe, that riled somebody up or whatever. Shut up. Don't add to the narrative. And here it seems either in the guise of, making their profile bigger or something of that sort, people just react. So I would say that it's not just that fact, but I'm saying let your actions speak rather than you speak. Do something nicer.
Because now what happens is you go on a podcast and speak for 4 hours essentially.
Yes.
See, now we are referring to the same ones.
It's perhaps what Amer is saying. And Amer and I have built some brands together in our time. So perhaps what he's saying is the brands have to live the values. It's not just about saying something on social media and the founders or whoever. And that living the values, what's happening at the front end, at the doorstep, is a key part of that.
And I think in some of the examples, I think these are conscious choices the company and the founders have.
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably how they want
Which choice is that?
of putting themselves out there and publicly stating what they believe is the culture of their company. I think these are intentional choices made by some.
Of course, yes.
And it has its pros and cons.
Plus and minus, yeah.
And it has its pros and cons. So I'm guessing they're okay living with both. And that's why they continue to kind of.
So like one of the examples, there are also not necessarily that you need to be reticent and always be at the background, but you need to have a judicious mix.
Yes.
Great example
Balance.
I always give is, okay, he's my friend, but Make My Trip and Deep. I think people know who Deep is. At the same time, Deep doesn't go out every time and talk. Make My Trip has its own life. Consumers have their own ways of handling grievance or showing delight or whatever. So it's like a business. The business has its own existence. The founder has its own existence. And they work very well together at a level which is balanced. Today, I think you can really be totally devoid of that because things have gone, like into the boardroom much faster. Previously, boardroom, when we grew up, seeing a boardroom itself was a big deal, right? Nowadays, social media walks into boardroom.
Absolutely.
So, therefore, things have changed. So, it is a question of balance. But the most important thing is what Amer said. If you have made a mistake, or if you think, you may think it's not a mistake, but if something has happened, let it happen completely. Yesterday I was watching a football match and one guy went past a defender in the penalty box and he held him. So the commentator said a brilliant thing. He said, if he has gone past, concede. Do not try to stop it, he will get a penalty. And lo and behold, it was a penalty. So the point is, if he has gone past, concede, wait and see what happens rather than trying to hold his shoulder. So this is something is very difficult to learn. People naturally have that, whatever, that defensive midfielders, instinct that he'll hold the shoulder of
And
that
Partha,
guy.
I'm saying one more thing. I'm saying, okay, exercise some restraint, but also give a fitting reply in your product, in the way you do things, so that, that shows up in the market, that shows up in your brand, that shows up in your value, rather than
A tweet.
And also you should
Series
allow
of
it to
tweets.
play out a little, rather
Patience,
than.
Yeah.
So I know that patience is a very difficult virtue these days because everything
quarter
is,
to quarter.
because if the delivery is 8 minutes, what patience are we talking about?
That's a fantastic, that's a very fitting, not fantastic, but a fitting note to end this conversation on. What we take away, of course, is everyone must exercise a little bit more patience. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.